So if you thought the final day of the championship season was dramatic, you have not seen the playoffs yet. Expect the unexpected. Let's start predicting the first leg games. What's up everyone, welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. It is the big day where we're predicting the first leg of the championship playoffs. Of course, we've got two ties. We've got Bournemouth and Brentford Monday 6 o'clock, and we've got Barnsley and Swansea also Monday 8:15. So very exciting times. I'm going to leave my first leg predictions in this video today. If you guys want to predict the first leg, please do so by leaving them in the comments down below. If you do get it correct, I will include it as a point on the Lexus Hall of Fame. And speaking of that, this is the updated Lexus Hall of Fame following last week's championship results and this week's Premier League results. Joshua Frood is still the leader. I've closed the gap to Charlie Brown a little bit because I've got two correct Premier League fixtures in this week. And this is what the championship Lexus Hall of Fame looks like as well. Roberto Hollis making a little bit of movement. If you guys like to see, please make sure to give this video a like. It does tremendously help the channel. Let's go for 20 likes again. You guys are smashing it on the like count recently. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. It really helps the channel. It really helps me. And please share this channel to as many people as you can so we can grow the popularity and the community of this channel. But without any further ado, let's predict these two games in depth. So the first playoff game to predict is Bournemouth versus Brentford. Now, I looked at Bournemouth squads over the last couple of games, and you could tell that after they actually played against Brentford, which you can quote unquote say it was their dress rehearsal for this playoff tie, they were actually resting some players in aid of the playoffs. But since that defeat to Brentford, they have lost every single game since that. 4 defeats in a row, and previously Bournemouth went on a run with 6 straight wins. So it's not encouraging form, to be honest with you, to lose so many games consecutively in the eve of a playoff campaign. Brentford, on the other hand, have done the exact opposite and have won 4 straight games and are unbeaten in their last 12 games. And they had to kind of put on this form to try and catch up with Watford, but when the points margin was too much for them, I think Brentford just wanted to make sure that they can get as high as they can on the table to secure third place, to get the quote-unquote the easier or the more winnable playoff game. But they are playing a Bournemouth side, which of course both of them have played against each other twice already this season, and it's been Brentford who have come up on top in both games. In the reverse fixture of this match, we saw a terrific comeback from Brentford when they were 1-0 down. It was a great assist by Lloyd Kelly for Dominic Solanke getting the goal, but 2 great goals by Dalsgaard and Fosu managed to complete the comeback for Brentford to make it 2-1. Now, Dalsgaard, I do not think will be available for Brentford for this game. So that's a bit of a blow, following that he was a goal scorer for Brentford in one of the games against Bournemouth. But I do think if they have Roerslev in that position, I think he can deputise. Let's try and predict what sort of lineup, formation and tactics they'll go for. So Bournemouth against Stoke, they had a 4 at the back. They've been going for 4 at the back most of the season. In terms of a defensive partnership, you'd very likely see Steve Cook and Cameron Carter-Vickers. I can't really see anyone else getting into their place. Unless Chris Methven may actually pop in from Cameron Carter-Vickers. If that's the best defensive pairing, then maybe that's probably the best option they can go for. In terms of the midfield, the midfield 2, Ben Pearson and Jefferson Lerma, probably the most robust and the most balanced midfield they could have. They can always have someone like Jack Wilshere if they need someone to hold up the play and to make a killer pass. But Jack Wilshere has just not been match fit since 2011, unfortunately. So I don't know if he's going to be the best option for that. Fullbacks is an interesting one because I think they'll stick with Adam Smith on the right-hand side. He's been pretty much the default right-back for all season. But Lloyd Kelly is interesting. Diego Rico could go into that position. Would he do a better job than Lloyd Kelly? I'm not too sure. I think the link-up play that Lloyd Kelly has with Danjuma and Solanke are a little bit better than Rico, but I guess you've got 2 fantastic options in that position. And I say with right back, you know, they have got Jack Stacey that they can substitute on if Adam Smith, let's say, is holding an injury or whatever. Now, Bournemouth, I think, will likely go with a front 4. So, Danjuma potentially on the left, David Brooks on the right. You know, he's not had a great season, David Brooks, but I think he will be heavily relied upon. Billing, I think, will be advanced. You know, he's been scoring a lot of goals. His form pretty much since March has been absolutely terrific. He obviously won a Player of the Month award for you now. And Solanke up top potentially. So I think that's a pretty strong squad for Bournemouth. They actually might not make too many changes to that side they actually had against Stoke, with the exception of maybe Chris Methven coming in, or potentially Lloyd Kelly being swapped out by Diego Rico. Now we go to Brentford, and this one's interesting because Brentford, we have been renowned of knowing them going at 4 at the back. But recently, they have reverted to a 3 or a 5 at the back formation. They did the change of formation against Preston and it paid dividends, beating them by 5-0. Max Roslev actually getting 2 assists in that game. So it was a formation that definitely suited him. But if they are going to revert back to the 4 at the back, which I think they are a little bit more comfortable in, we could likely see a partnership of Pinnock and Janssen, or maybe Winston Reid popping in now and again. If they were to revert back to 3 at the back, you probably see someone like Norgard being shifted from midfield back to a centre-back position. He'd either be right side or maybe central centre-back. Midfield, you would very likely see Janelt and Jensen. I think they'd be the default players that you go for the midfield. I don't think De Silva is going to be available, so I'm even a little bit more confident that those will be the players that they go for. But the attacking options is what's really interesting here. So obviously, if they do go for 5 at the back, the wing backs would potentially be Canos and Roslev in these wing back positions. Now, with a front 3, they had Fosu, Force and Tony against Bristol City. But crucially, they left out Brian Mbeumo, didn't they? And he went on as a substitute. And of course, within a matter of seconds, he scored a goal. I feel you have to start in Mbeumo. Now, how are they going to do it? Are they going to do 3 up front, so maybe 2 wingers, so maybe Force being pushed more to the left-hand side, Tony being the central striker and Mbeumo being on the right-hand side? Or will Fosu occupy that left-wing position? Thomas Frank has got a load of priced assets and he's got a load of options here. So Brentford's squad, I think, is a little bit more unpredictable than Bournemouth's squad at the moment. The midfield battle, it will be very interesting. I think it's a strength of both these sides. They like to hold the ball well. They play very expansive football. They're two sides that don't tend to sit back and try and invite pressure. They go for games. They heavily press as well. And I think whoever wins the midfield battle and who can supply more service to their strikers, I think will be the team that goes on top of this game. It'll be an interesting battle to see if Tony can continue his goal scoring form. With Jonathan Woodgate as a manager though, and with Bournemouth having 4 defeats in a row, I'm not too sure if I'm really confident that they're probably going to have it within them. They do have the home tie first, and Bournemouth needs to make this count. To reiterate, the last time they played each other at the Vitality was literally 3 game weeks ago, and Brentford won by 1-0. Brian Mbeumo with the winning goal, and more impressively, Brentford went down to 10 men with Pontus Jansson getting sent off. And that's probably another factor. Do you start Jansson knowing his temperament of his decision making? Could then Winston Reid be put into his place? Or do you go for experience and put up Pontus Jansson? With this game, I am edging Brentford being the favourites right now. But I'm not too sure because I know exactly what Bournemouth have in their locker. And when you get the first leg of the playoffs, it tends to be very cagey and you don't tend to see a lot going on. You see both these sides trying to figure each other out tactically and they don't want to make any silly mistakes. Because by the first leg, the game could be game, set and match. And they will definitely want to take it to the second leg where we see a little bit more fireworks and a lot more goals going in traditionally. So with this game, I'll go for a low scoring draw, I think. I can't separate them. I would say a 1-1 draw. I was thinking 2-1 Brentford following their great run of form, but you could argue form is completely discounted to the playoffs. So it's going to be an interesting matchup to say the least. FIFA21 is going to agree with me as well. And the final playoff game to talk about is Barnsley going up against Swansea. I think a lot of people said that Swansea would be the team that people would want to go up against in the playoffs following their poor run of form. They've only picked up 11 points in their last 8 matches and actually squeezing in 5 defeats in their last 10 matches. So Swansea's form has not been that strong, to be honest with you. Barnsley at home, more specifically, they've only had 4 home defeats all season. However, 3 of those home defeats have come in the hands of the 3 other teams in the top 6, funnily enough. So Barnsley would definitely need to try and get rid of this curse that those 3 teams get the better of them at home, because it has been their home form that has taken them to this position. Now, to go through the previous games they've had against each other, Swansea are the only team this season to do the double over Barnsley in the Championship with an aggregate score of 4-0. It was 2-0 victories, and we'll talk about the game at home because that is where the first leg's being played. I remember it quite vividly. Barnsley were pretty good, and it was the second meeting they had as well. I mean, I know for a game in the Liberty, Barnsley didn't do that much. In Oakwell, Barnsley did way more. They created way more. Their pressing was a lot more on point. That was when Ishmael was starting to implement his system and the players were starting to understand it a little bit. But it was Swansea ultimately that got the win. And actually, what was the biggest threat from Swansea was their long throws from Connor Roberts. They got their first goal from that, a long throw by Connor Roberts. And I think it was Ben Cabango that got the header, actually. And then in the second half, Barnsley really just threw the game away. There was a collision between Helik and Mads Andersen, and Jamalo simply ran through on goal and scored. So Barnsley cannot afford to make those kinds of mistakes in a game as important as the playoffs. They've not been in a playoff position in the Championship for over 16 years. Now, Barnsley tend to have a good record in the playoffs, actually, because in their last 2 playoff appearances in League One, they have both won the final successfully. But the Championship playoffs are much different from League One playoffs. Tougher teams, tough opposition, bigger price to win, bigger stakes as well. Now, the squad that they had against Norwich, I'm just looking at it now, it was pretty strong actually. And of course, with their formation, it's very likely they'll go for a 3 at the back. It's what Ishmael has implemented to this Barnsley side. So we'll very likely see Anderson and Heelig as the 2 centre-backs. But maybe Civic may be swapped in for someone like Solbauer for experience, potentially. And then for the wing-backs, I don't see much change there. We'll see Callum Styles and Callum Britton, who have been absolutely scintillating this season. Callum Britton, who actually nearly scored a wonder goal against Swansea last time they played against each other. Midfield will be interesting. Alex Mowatt didn't actually start for Barnsley against Norwich. Would he start for Barnsley against Swansea? I feel like they're going to have to try and get him in, because he by himself can almost win the game for Barnsley. Just the way how he's a box-to-box player, can hold the ball well, and just for what he can do with a set piece, a free kick, and a long looping delivery, he can definitely provide service to the strikers as well. The front 3 is interesting as well. Carlton Morris started for Barnsley against Norwich, and he's not been getting too many starts. Is someone like Dal DK going to start, potentially ahead of him? Would Woodrow start? You know, is he going to have 2 strikers up top? Is he going to tweak the formation a little bit? I tell you what, just looking at the bench and their squad, Barnsley got a lot of options. Even someone like Dominic Freesia could potentially get featured at some stage as well, but I wouldn't say he would start a game. Likely, we should see DK and then maybe Woodrow. I think those 2 would be the most likely attackers we'll see on the pitch. Potentially, Morris could go in for a bit of link-up play and for his role on the pitch. Now, Swansea's line-up in their last game against Watford was interesting. Now, obviously, Swansea, to reiterate my analysis at the start, they had their poor run of form, didn't they? They had 4 consecutive defeats. Steve Cooper tweaked his formation, doing the Brentford pretty much, tweaked the formation, and then results starting to improve a little bit. I do think their 3 or 5 at the back is their most preferred formation. It's the one they're most comfortable with. And in terms of the back 4, you know, if they do go for a back 4, I don't think it'll be a squad that's too dissimilar to the one they had against Watford. They had Roberts and Bidwell as the fullbacks, of course. And in terms of the centre-back partnership, Mark Gueye, I think, will start. He's been probably their best centre-back this season with Ryan Bennett. Maybe potentially Cabango could start, but if they want to go for experience, they may stick with Ryan Bennett. But even potentially, they could have someone like Carl Norton go on the far right. The midfield, I think, will stay the same. I think if Matt Grimes starts, it'll be a very interesting battle to see Matt Grimes and Alex Mo, because I think both play very similar roles and both are the glue in their team in very, very specific ways as well. Hourihane, I think, will start against his former club as well. Jay Fulton, I think, will be starting as well. Now the front 3 is interesting. Are they going to have an alone striker? And if so, are they going to stick with Liam Cullen? Because He's a very, very young player, and he'll be putting through a load of pressure if he needs to lead the line in a playoff campaign like that. They could even have someone like Wayne Routledge go up front potentially, and he might be the preferred option if they want to go for a little bit of experience. In terms of the wide players, I think Jamal Lowe will start. He's already scored 2 goals against Barnsley in the 2 games they've had against each other. I think almost a guarantee he'll start. Ayew, I think, may start as well. The thing is with Swansea, I don't think they have a real recognised striker apart from Liam Cullen, which I think could be an issue. But if they can work the ball out well, they can get enough service, then in terms of their attacking play, Swansea are as good as anyone, really. And even on the bench, they can have someone like Whittaker, who can start up top. They can have Jan Danda going in on the wide position, but he can go centrally as well. So Swansea have got an abundance of talent and potential on the bench and in that squad as well. Now, both these teams are a little bit different. So Barnsley, very high pressing team. You know, they're not a team that often sits back, but I have seen them do it before. I've seen them do it against Brentford and Bournemouth as well, I guess. And they have churned out some fantastic results from that. So Barnsley are a very versatile team. Swansea, on the other hand, are a team I do feel do tend to sit back quite a fair bit more than the rest, hence why they've got the best defensive record in the top 6. But of course, both these sides would have played against each other twice. As I said, Swansea, the only team to do the double over Barnsley this season. It's going to be a very interesting test to see if the transfers being brought into Barnsley are going to improve the team, or if Swansea are going to get the better of Barnsley once again and just managing to beat the press, get enough long looping balls. Because when I saw the games, if you play quickly and you beat their press, Barnsley can be exposed. And that's exactly what Swansea did, well, to perfection in their 2 games. So that's exactly what they need to do. So they need to be razor sharp in this game. Now, to predict this game is so difficult. You can definitely see someone like Swansea sneaking in the result. If you base it on form, Barnsley probably would be the favourites. This is difficult. FIFA21 is saying 2-0 to Swansea, so actually matching the result previously. I'm going to go a bit different, actually. I'm going to say a 1-0 victory to Barnsley. I think this game, compared to Bournemouth and Brentford, is going to be a lot more cagey. But I do think Barnsley may get the edge, whether it may be a penalty or maybe an Alex Mert free kick. I mean, it would be amazing if that was the case, but I think Barnsley might just edge it. So I'll say 1-0 Barnsley. That, guys, is my prediction for the Championship Playoffs Leg 1. Make sure you comment your predictions in the comments down below and tell me who you think are the favourites to get in the Championship Playoff Final as well. I'll be very interested to know. But that wraps it up for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it, please make sure you do give this video a like. It tremendously helps the channel. Please subscribe if you haven't done. It really, really would make my day. And please share my channel as well. That would also really make my day. But thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary if you saw the end of this video. And as always, take care, everyone.